As we've done all year, we're going to grade Justin Fields, who will be back next year as a second-year starter for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Nathan, Steven, and Doug after Clemson's 29-23 win in the Fiesta Bowl. What were the numbers?
30 for 46 for 320 yards and a touchdown, and then 14 carries for 13 yards.
14 for 13. Nathan, what's your grade for Justin Fields, Ohio State quarterback?
I'm going to say B-. I'm giving him some credit for the fact that this is the best team that they've played so far. And that last touchdown was not his fault, as we've talked. There was a miscommunication on the route. He threw it where the receiver was supposed to be. That receiver was not there. He also had one that he threw right in a guy's hands that got dropped. So I still think he gets 2 interceptions on his record at the end of the day. And he gave them a chance to win there at the end. I mean, he comes down, he's making the plays, he's making the reads at the crucial time in the game. He put them in position to win, but just that miscommunication cost him. So I think he's going to look back at this game and probably see some decisions he could have made that were better decisions. But you're also, again, you're playing the best team you've played all year. Sometimes you just fall a little short.
B-? B-.
B-.
Steven.
I'm going to go with a B+ because you're right. A miscommunication cost them a trip to the national championship game because they're scoring on that. Like, they're driving it. Like, he was putting a similar drive to what Trevor Lawrence had just done. He's driving. It's efficient. They're going up tempo. He's completing stuff, a lot of stuff to J.K. Dobbins out of screen passes and stuff like that. And a miscommunication cost him the get a chance to go to the national championship. But he did have some, like, he probably should have had 3 or 4 picks today. He had obviously the one that was dropped. He had a couple others where he just didn't look like he was making some quality decisions with the ball. So I'm going to go with a B+ because of that.
I feel like we've been grading Justin Fields on a curve a lot this year. There were times when he got pulled out of a game early. There were times when it's like, well, the defense he played stunk. I feel like you have to grade him on a curve again. We talked about it so much. How much would the knee brace affect him? And when he talked about it post-game, he said he felt fine, but I think like the brace affected him more than knee pain. That's what he said. And I didn't think he looked like himself. I thought he didn't step into some throws. I thought he maybe forced some throws because he didn't feel as comfortable running. It's funny, we talk so much, and I hate talking about it. When to take a quarterback out of a game, when to take a quarterback out of a game. I think it's possible, really, that this season changed when Justin Fields got hurt late in the Penn State game. And that if he is never hurt, if he's 100%, because you ended up with the guy, he wasn't 100%. Now, whatever the percent is, he said 80, 85 earlier in the week. He wasn't 100%. And the way the game went, they ended up putting a lot on him because they took a lead early. Then the defense loses Shaun Wade. J.K. Dobbins gets hurt. Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, he's got to run and throw. Now they're behind. Now he's got to lead them back. They really ended up leaning on a guy who I think wasn't quite himself. And I think of all the things that people may regret on the Ohio State side about these things, I think there's at least a tiny part of that regret that is like, man, what if Justin Fields was 100%? What would that have looked like? I thought there would have been a time or two when he would have escaped a sack, when he would have taken off and been a little more dangerous in the open field. Did you feel like there were a couple moments where it was like, man, I thought maybe he could go there and he didn't go?
Yeah, I did think there were a couple, and there were a couple times where he had good runs. I mean, even on this last drive, I mean, his scrambling, his willingness to go get yards with his feet was what was keeping that alive, putting him in position to win. But clearly he was compromised in some way. To what extent, we may never know, because I don't know how forthcoming he'll be about that. I don't think he wants to blame that, but he was compromised.
He had one specifically where it's a sack. Like 99.9% of quarterbacks, it's a sack. And he beats the one man he needs to beat. And he gets about 11 or 12 yards and keeps the entire drive alive. And I'm pretty sure they scored on that one as well. So that one right there is like, to your point, I don't think his knee was in pain. I was down here on the field before the game. Anytime he would come out of a rep, he would start messing with the brace. So I think you're right. I don't necessarily think he was in as much pain as maybe he was against Penn State. But I think just wearing that brace for a guy who never has to do stuff like that, I think it did affect him a little bit.
I do think he's tough, as Ryan Day has said a million times. I mean, nobody would ever question that. That is a tough guy who gutted it out without complaining about anything. I don't think he was quite as precise. I don't think he was quite as dynamic as he can be at his top end. And the way this game went, the difference, 85% Justin Fields versus 100% Justin Fields may have been enough to change the outcome of this game. What did I say, B? Nathan?
You didn't say, did you?
B. I'll say a B. So that's a B down the middle. B+, B-, B. And again, I mean, he did force it. I thought he forced 5 or 6 or 8 throws into coverage. Like, man, that was not there, and you got lucky that wasn't, that was never going to be a completion. But I think if you're trying to do more with your arm because you feel like maybe you can't do quite as much with your leg, I thought there were times he even didn't step into throws as much. I think it's hard to hold it against him, but I think he wasn't the best that Justin Fields could be. Much more coverage coming. Ohio State finishes the season 13-1. Clemson LSU in the national championship game. Nathan, Steve, and Doug for cleveland.com.